After a PCOS diagnosis, how many of you have heard the advice just lose some weight? Medically, this seems to have become a norm for most doctors to suggest to any PCOS patient. So, when we all know that excess weight can trigger the symptoms and losing even 5 to 10% of that weight can help improve them, why could this approach be more dangerous than beneficial? What's the problem? A. We don't exactly tell you how. Some may give generic advice such as avoid sweets, fried foods, eat more whole foods, etc. Some dietitians may even put you on Loki juice or an extremely restrictive meal plan where you quickly lose a few kgs only to gain it all again once you get back to your regular eating patterns. B. It can make you set unrealistic health goals and look for quick results or shortcuts. Clickbait content on how to lose 5 kgs in 1 month or how to cure PCOS without any diet, exercise, but just drinking a herbal tea or taking a supplement and drive me crazy. Is weight loss so important that you would risk putting your overall health at stake? I think absolutely not. And C, it may create an impression that this disease is all your fault, make you question your willpower regarding food, as well as your own sense of self, leading to huge body image issues and in some cases even disordered eating tendencies. It is very common for PCOS women to then go on diets and fall into the pattern of restrict, crave, binge, repeat, as well as run the risk of covert malnutrition. I have met so many women who tell me, Doc, till my diagnosis, I was okay with my body except for this menstrual issue. I didn't have a tendency to overeat and for the most part was making mindful choices when it came to my food. But after this, I went on a diet, cut out carbs and dairy completely, started working out like crazy, and I feel miserable than ever. What am I doing wrong? Therefore, offering such generic advice, albeit well intentioned, oftentimes puts people off of doctors and they just avoid going to one. Body weight, anyways, doesn't tell the whole story. Having a BMI within the normal range does not necessarily equate to good health. On the flip side, an individual may have an overweight BMI but still be healthy overall. Because body weight isn't just about subcutaneous fat but also your skeletal framework, muscle mass, visceral fat, and body fluids. So instead of weight loss, what if we focused on symptom correction, formulating a plan for sustainable nutritious eating patterns, performance-oriented physical activities that motivate us, don't feel like a chore, and fill us with a sense of accomplishment, what self-love means to us and how to inculcate it in our daily lives. Because who doesn't want to feel their best, function with ease on a daily basis, as well as improve their quality of life as a whole? Fat loss or muscle gain, as needed, will be a byproduct in this journey. Our bodies will do what it does best. Let's just not come in the way by doing a lot or by doing nothing. You get my point, right? I had to learn this the hard way. The first time I ever struggled with my weight was 9 years ago after I gave birth to my first child. As I breastfed for 2 years, I don't remember making too many changes to my diet except for sticking to ghar ka khana for the most part. But I did up my physical activity to include swimming 6 months postpartum. That seemed to do the trick and I was back to my regular self after a year. By the time I delivered my second child 4 years ago and completed breastfeeding, I was well into my fitness journey with strength training, obsessed with body composition values, as well as an ardent follower of the work of Harvard professor Dr. David Sinclair and his research into slowing of aging and prolonging longevity through intermittent fasting and supplements. Being a mother taking care of 2 kids and a doctor who advises other people, I was my own guinea pig, trying out different diets, versions of intermittent fasting, would fret over what was being cooked in the kitchen, the produce, the utensils, how it was being cooked, read labels off of everything, check nutritional values, etc. So this time around, despite all the unnecessary pressure I put on myself, getting back into shape was still doable. However, with the pandemic facing major stresses in both my professional and personal space, the familiar route or my usual plan of calorie deficit and intermittent fasting didn't seem to work. Despite burning 800 to 1000 calories per day kickboxing or doing high intensity interval training, eating only 1 meal a day, I started to exhibit signs and symptoms of insulin resistance with hormonal acne, increased hirsutism, weight gain, low energy levels, and fluctuating blood pressure. Honestly, there was so much going on during this period that there was hardly any time to assess and self-reflect. In an attempt to steer myself away from the issues that came with excess weight, I was ignoring the toxic mental stress that came with orthorexia. Eventually, the more I obsessed with sticking to my grueling regime, the worse it became. It was only after more than a year of feeling frustrated, questioning what I knew and practiced, that I decided to take my mind off of numbers, percentages, and just focus on health promoting behaviors. Going back to the basics: practicality, simplicity, sustainability, fulfillment, and patience. My point is, losing weight and keeping it off isn't textbook easy when it comes to PCOS, which involves imbalances of multiple hormones in the body that can be heavily influenced even by your emotions. In fact, in the same person, depending on where they are in their life, there are multiple variables that can hugely alter the outcome. From PCOD, you can progress to PCOS, which is a syndrome that involves multiple systems. Think of it as a spectrum. Hence, getting a detailed blood work is key when you feel like you're progressing along that spectrum. Get your hormonal assay done. Check if you have insulin resistance, hypothyroidism, adrenal PCOS, inflammation in the body, or have any nutritional deficiencies. Once you know your specific type of PCOS and its triggers, you can manage it accordingly. Instead of offering blanket advice, I want us to look at 3 of the commonest food-related issues that happen in this disease, their pathogenesis, so that we know how to fix them. Number 1, low energy levels and lack of motivation. Number 2, extreme cravings and binge eating tendencies. And number 3, inflammation and gut issues. To explain perpetually low energy levels, lack of motivation, and bodies that are programmed to save fat than to burn it, we need to understand metabolism and the basic math of calorie consumption and utilization. Total daily energy expenditure, or TDEE, is the energy a person uses in a day. It is dependent on basal metabolic rate, that is, calories we burn when our bodies are resting while performing vital functions such as breathing, circulation, etc. We burn 60 to 70% of our calories this way. Plus NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, when we are doing activities like getting out of bed, brushing our teeth, or daily chores. Plus thermic effect of food, which is basically energy required to digest our food. And EAT, exercise activity thermogenesis, that is calories burnt when we exercise. Studies show that women with PCOS have a significantly lower basal metabolic rate than others without the condition. This suggests that we burn significantly fewer calories than other people without the condition. We also have a lower lean body mass and skeletal muscle mass, further contributing to an already sluggish metabolism. Such metabolic inflexibility leads to increased visceral fat and androgen excess, giving rise to complications such as hypertension, diabetes mellitus, and heart diseases later on in life. Now, when you add dieting to this equation, it just makes the situation a whole lot worse. With dieting, you're trying to be in a calorie deficit, right? Which is the proven method for weight loss. But it isn't as simple as calories in minus calories out, because metabolism isn't fixed, it is dynamic. So when you are on an extreme calorie deficit, let's say you cut your consumption by 1000 calories per day, it doesn't mean that you are in a 1000 calorie deficit and that you're going to lose weight so quickly. If this continues for a few weeks, metabolic adaptation sets in. Your body lowers your TDEE because not enough calories are coming in from food. It does this by suppressing your physiological functions that aren't vital for survival, such as menstruation, immune function, even your gut motility, causing constipation. All of this further worsens the hormonal imbalance. Chronic low energy availability can further cause breakdown of muscle tissue to convert protein into usable glucose in the body, which will further reduce your basal metabolic rate, which means you're burning even fewer calories now. When your muscle mass is low, you will automatically not feel the urge to take the stairs instead of the lift, because there is already not enough fuel in the body and you feel tired all the time. This is what caused my love-hate relationship with intermittent fasting. I have seen IF to have tremendous impact in certain autoimmune conditions, reversing early type 2 diabetes mellitus, as well as in correcting eating patterns. But when it comes to PCOS, it is a double-edged sword. It is also a bad idea to practice when you're already extremely stressed, because this fasting will just add to your cortisol level, increasing insulin resistance as well as androgens in the body. Short eating window means you're automatically consuming fewer calories, but this can really aggravate the restrict binge cycle and easily push you under the critical energy threshold limit. So what is the solution? To fix this, we need to understand that muscle is a metabolically active tissue, but fat isn't. Muscle burns more calories even at rest, thereby significantly improving our basal metabolic rate. Preservation and building of muscle builds insulin sensitivity and improves metabolic health. So in short, we need more muscle and less fat. I would say use calorie deficit and intermittent fasting to your advantage. Let's say an average Indian woman with a moderate lifestyle requires about 2000 to 2500 calories per day. Small deficits of less than 10% of those maintenance calories, that is in this case about 200 to 250 calorie deficit per day, can help you with gradual fat loss in a sustainable, efficient manner that happens over a period of time, but it stays. But you won't be weight cycling then. This deficit can come from diet as well as an extremely smart planned workout routine. Avoid dieting as it slows down metabolism and add more protein to your diet. Also remember that protein absorption happens better when the quantity of protein is divided over many meals than in one go, as happens in intermittent fasting. I still prefer having an early dinner by 6 or 7 p.m., but that's because it's become a way of life for me and I feel more comfortable with an early dinner. That makes my overnight fast of about 12 hours and sometimes 13 hours, but never more than that. So essentially, being in a small daily calorie deficit, not fasting for more than 12 hours, ensuring you add more protein to your every meal, as well as doing workouts that build muscle, will lead to leaner body mass as well as increased basal metabolic rate that will burn calories and fat much faster. This is the cycle we want. Intense cravings and binge eating patterns are very common in women with PCOS. You may have just finished a meal and still crave for something to eat. If it's the occasional premenstrual one, I would say go ahead and have that piece of chocolate. It really is all right. But if the craving is persistent throughout your cycle, please don't try to ignore it or trick it by drinking a glass of water or whatever the wellness experts say. Craving is similar to fever and pain, as in its body's check engine light telling you that something is awry and needs to be fixed. It is also an indicator that your current eating patterns aren't suiting you and changes need to be made. Every time we eat something, pancreas secretes insulin, which acts as a key to let glucose from the blood enter into the cells, convert it into energy for their functioning. Let's say you've eaten a large quantity of sweets without protein or fat. All of that sugar will get quickly absorbed into the bloodstream and the pancreas will pump out even more insulin to mop up all that glucose. Because these cells are so sensitive to this hormone, regular overload weakens the signal and uptake. This is how insulin resistance develops over a period of time. So now this key isn't unlocking the gate for glucose's entry. You have all of this excess glucose, unused insulin, and cells starving for their fuel, which give rise to low energy levels in the body and make you crave for carbs and sugar. So how do we correct this? By ensuring that the rise in blood glucose happens gradually throughout the day so that the cells respond to insulin better and won't become desensitized. We can do this by having hearty, well-balanced meals which include high fiber, low GI carbs, good amount of protein and healthy fats. The more nutrient diverse items we include in one meal, the longer it takes for our bodies to break it down. Thereby, the sugar spikes are going to be longer, slower and more sustained throughout the day, keeping our energy levels at an optimum. Everything has a place in a balanced diet, just the proportion varies. My workday usually starts by 7:30 or 8 in the morning, so I ensure to have a good breakfast. I may choose steel cut oats, which are an excellent source of high fiber, low GI carb, made in full fat milk, which again is an excellent source of protein and much better for us than low fat milk really. I would add seasonal fruits such as banana, apple or mango for sweetness, as well as lots of nuts, almonds, walnuts and even seeds, flax, chia or sunflower seeds for the healthy fat. I find that when I eat a breakfast such as this, I tend to be satiated and energetic throughout my morning. On an aloo parantha day, which many may consider as naked carbs, I again add my sources of protein, which could be paneer or eggs, as well as a handful of nuts to make it an all-rounded breakfast. Same goes for idli, dosa or pongal days. But here I find substituting rice idli batter with millet or ragi isn't compromising on taste for me. Some days I may even add a protein powder drink just to ensure that my daily requirement is met. When you have more filling accompaniments in the form of protein and good fat, you will find that you are fuller for longer. So the need to snack or the need to binge comes down drastically. For lunch and dinner, I ensure that my plate has all the three major food groups with variety of colors and textures so that I'm consuming enough fuel. The mindset is how can I add more nutrition to my plate, even substitute at times, but never eliminate. In the past, whenever I experimented with ketogenic diet, paleo, or juicing diets, basically any restrictive diet, I just didn't find them sustainable at all and quite boring, honestly, to be sticking with just one food group. Whereas now, on a pizza date with my kids, we would order a protein rich appetizer of chicken, fish, or tofu, or beans, as well as a generous portion of salad. I think it teaches them to identify when they are full, as well as the importance of a well balanced, nutritious meal instead of hailing good food and demonizing bad food. We don't have to assign moral values to food, because when you do that, along with it comes shame and guilt. I was watching this one actor's interview on how she was craving for a cupcake, and then she saw another actor coming out of the gym and immediately put the cupcake down. She laughed about it, but that made me sad. A lot has been said about the toxic norms in the entertainment industry about body types, but such rigid restraints in today's fitness culture are so normalized that we ignore the detrimental effects it may have on a young woman's impressionable mind. Out of all the dysfunctional relationships one may have in their life, do we need to make one with food too? Food is medicine, and how we treat our bodies affects all other spheres of our life. But it doesn't have to become an all consuming obsession. Remember, it is not just one food item that contributes to weight, but it is in relation to everything else on your plate. When you eat meals that are both satiating and emotionally satisfying, the need to binge or overeat comes down drastically. Because it's not the forbidden fruit anymore, the allure it held once is gone. Believe me, it takes time, but it is so worth the mental peace. You will also notice that when your body isn't going through the sugar highs and lows, whenever you eat something that is too sweet or too fatty, you will automatically not be able to consume more of it and put it down. Then it is a choice and not a compulsion. When your eating habits become this way, you will realize that there is no need for cheat meals, cheat weekends, post-vacation cleanse, etc., because you're no longer operating in an all or nothing space. Next, I want to talk about the importance of sleep. Ghrelin is the hormone which makes us hungry, and cholecystokinin and leptin are hormones that let us know that we are full. They are our satiety hormones. There are a lot of studies which show that PCOS women have reduced secretion of cholecystokinin, thereby leading to binge eating patterns. Prioritizing going to bed early, restoring your circadian rhythm can work wonders in restoring these hormones back into balance and reduce the tendency to binge eat drastically. As someone who has dealt with pretty bad insomnia in the past, I have realized that whenever I doze off along with my kids because they have an early bedtime, I wake up feeling so well rested. Cravings can also often indicate an underlying nutrient deficiency. It could be zinc, iron, chromium, magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin B12. So getting a blood work done is extremely important to know which supplementation is needed for you. Personally, I have been taking omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium, and ashwagandha. Myoinositol is another supplement that helps improve ovarian function as well as insulin sensitivity. Having said all of this, if despite making all these changes you find yourself still struggling with cravings, and when you get your fasting insulin checked and the levels are too high, and your doctor is suggesting you start on metformin, it's okay to start off on the drug. That may just be the much needed first gear to get your body moving in the right direction. In a few months, when you are in a better shape with your nutrition and fitness, you may not need it any longer. Sometimes cravings and binge eating could also be a way to suppress negative emotions or feeling overwhelmed. Disordered eating can create food as an escape to overcome issues such as low sense of self that are difficult to face. I speak more on this topic in my upcoming video on self-love. Number 3, I can't emphasize the importance of assessing your gut health. Are your bowel movements regular? Are you experiencing symptoms such as increased bloating, excess flatulence, acidity, belching? Are you noticing frequent mood swings that could indicate a faulty mind-gut connection? If you have any of these symptoms, it needs correction above everything else. You can get your blood test done to check inflammatory markers such as CRP and ESR. You can also maintain a food diary to see if any of these symptoms are aggravated whenever you consume gluten or dairy. You can also get tested for allergies, celiac disease, as well as non-celiac gluten sensitivity. This is probably the only scenario where I would say eliminate food groups that you seem to have developed sensitivity towards. To improve our gut health, we need to understand migrating motor complex, or MMC. It is a cyclic motility pattern that occurs in stomach and small intestine after our meal. Think of it as our body's way of housekeeping to ensure a healthy digestive tract. This physiological function regulates the gut's microbiota and prevents conditions like irritable bowel syndrome and small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or SIBO. Studies have shown that when we don't leave enough time for MMC to operate in between meals by snacking a lot, it can lead to varied gut issues and create a state of pro-inflammation, which is what happens in most women with PCOS. You can correct this by ensuring that there is a gap of at least 3.5 to 4 hours between every meal. Unless you have quite severe insulin resistance, you don't need to have small frequent meals every 2 or 3 hours. With some patients, just doing this much may not be sufficient and they may need help in the form of pre and probiotics. As for herbal and at-home remedies to combat this, it helps, but the volume that you need to consume is quite large. For example, cinnamon does have anti-inflammatory properties, but the consumption has to be at least 3 grams every day. Just sprinkling a little bit over the food might not have the desired effect. Same goes with something like spearmint tea, which can help reduce the androgen levels in the blood, but needs to be consumed at least 3 to 4 cups in a day. So in order to make an impact, consumption has to be adequate and long term. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about rewiring our brain. Years of eating patterns lead to significant changes in how our brain governs and responds to hunger and satiation processes. Adversely, when new behavior patterns emerge, the brain can also fix itself. In short, poor eating habits invite health issues and better ones make them go away. In the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, he talks about identity, processes, and outcome. A lot of people get onto a new habit or a new behavioral pattern with an outcome in mind. That is, they want to lose weight, and then they put the processes in place to reach that outcome. But this method also has the most percentage of failure because it takes longer and you might just lose motivation in the process, right? But if you work the other way around, that is, you change your identity, you say that I am a healthy individual who prioritizes his or her physical and mental well-being, then it becomes easier to stick with a new habit or a new behavior pattern. Oftentimes I find people stick to a limiting behavior pattern by saying मैं तो ऐसे ही हूँ, but this keeps you from evolving into a better version of yourself. Change this mental dialogue. So whatever it is you aspire to be, you can create that identity right now and work towards it so that you become that in the outer world one day. This way you're taking responsibility of your life, letting go of the victim mentality. You fail, you learn, but you're back at it again because that defines who you are as an individual. Food is not just about how we look, but it is for nutritional adequacy leading to optimum energy levels, good digestive health, a strong mind-gut connection, as well as shared joy and social bonding with family and friends. In one's journey towards just weight loss, one may often forget this. It may take a year or 2 or 5 to be at your physical best, but you're enjoying the ride. Just remember to stick to fundamentals with consistency and patience. I hope you found this video helpful and it guides you to understand your body better. Thank you for your time and attention. Be well.